I'm Surya from Skill-Lync, and I'm one of the co-founders at Skill-Lync. At Skill-Lync, we provide high-end technical courses, and today we have Stuart. Stuart basically works at Arrival, and I'll let him explain about his experience. But this is about a research program that we are introducing at Skill-Lync as a part of our research projects.
Yes, so I'm Stuart Hubbard. I work at Arrival, based in the UK, as a vehicle dynamics engineer predominantly. I'm part of what we call our vehicle attributes team. So we cover all of the vehicle level requirements for all of the platforms that we develop, cascading those requirements down to the systems, so the suspension system, brake system, powertrain system, things like that. And then ultimately we develop those throughout the program, and then perform the validation and sign off at the end of the program. So my background is heavily in vehicle dynamics and chassis system development. Before joining Arrival, I spent nearly 10 years working at Jaguar Land Rover, also based in the UK, where the first 5 years I was doing various roles within the electrical engineering team, and then moved to the chassis engineering team, where I led the development of a lot of simulation methods and tools, particularly for active suspension systems, and obviously with a big focus on how they're used to improve vehicle dynamic performance.
This is about a research program that we are introducing at Skill-Lync as a part of our research projects. And this is a 3-month research project that I'll basically explain about. To give a quick overview of this particular project, this is majorly on active suspension system for improvement of vehicle dynamics performance. Right? That is the focus of this program. And as we kind of move ahead, you will learn a lot about this. I'll just quickly share my screen and kind of explain what we are speaking about, so that you all have an idea about it. So this is the project that we are speaking about. This is the program. This is a 3-month program where you will be directly interacting with Stuart Hubbard. There is only 5 people we can take in for each batch. And what we will basically speak about today is what we are going to look into this particular program. So folks who are attending this, if you are interested in working with Stuart. So Stuart is basically taking up a research project at Skill-Lync. He is going to lead this research project. It's a 3-month project, 5 participants, only 5 people, because this is a live project where you interact with Stuart, and he will be the lead guide to kind of give you an overview about how to go about it, and you get a chance to interact with him over the 12-week period. And each individual in this 5-member team will be working on each of these projects, and right from start to end. And as the takeaways are, there are many takeaways. Not only do you understand vehicle dynamics in detail, you also see what your other student or your other colleague is working on, and probably during the common session with Stuart, you understand what they are doing, and also you get so many ideas and learnings from those interactions, listening into those interactions of your colleagues as well. So this program is 3 months long, and this program is basically live. You will interact with Stuart on a weekly basis over 12-week. So if someone is interested, you can basically take up this coursework. This is a research project, not a coursework where you. So at the end of the day, you will work on a project fully. Each seat is around 1,75,000. What we are doing is, for these webinar attendees, we are providing a 15% introductory offer. This program starts in the beginning of Feb, so you can basically enroll in this program if you are interested. How does this research program lay the pathway towards particular career path? I know it's a 3-month. Everything needs to start, and probably we think about this research program as that start, as that catalyst towards a particular area, right? And how do you define this particular program, and what are your thoughts on that?
Sure. Yeah. So I guess just sort of addressing the first part in terms of the content of the research program and why that's sort of relevant to the industry. So obviously the intent of this research program is to study the influence of active or adaptive suspension systems on vehicle dynamic performance. And the reason for that is, firstly, vehicle dynamics as a subject has been around for for many years, almost since the first car was developed, people have been studying vehicle dynamics, trying to figure out how to improve the performance. Throughout that journey, people have always had to compromise. You can break vehicle dynamics down into largely ride and handling as kind of the two core categories, and you always have to compromise between the two. If you want a vehicle that's very responsive, very stable and easy to control, you often have to compromise ride comfort to achieve that. Obviously the opposite is true if you want a comfortable vehicle. Automotive OEMs now are increasingly trying to use active and adaptive suspension systems to try to help basically remove that compromise. So they're using these systems so that when the vehicle is cornering, they can have fast response, good handling performance, but when you're just driving down the road, say on a motorway, something like that, it can change its behaviour and act like a much more comfortable vehicle by changing the performance of things like the dampers and the roll control systems. So that's something that's very, very important at the moment within the industry. When I was at JLR, they were heavily ramping up people's development in things like mechatronics because of the fact that this was just going to have a massive area for them to invest in. So that's one part of it in terms of the use of those systems. The second part of it is throughout the research project, you'll be expected to develop some fairly simple models to understand how these systems work and how they can improve vehicle dynamic performance. And what I want to try to get people to understand from that is how you can use these quite simple models to do an awful lot of very powerful engineering. The use of CA and simulation software I've got a big background in. It's something that I've seen a lot of use of within the industry. One of the biggest challenges within the industry is getting people to use the right model at the right time. So often, because you can make these fantastically complex models with hundreds of degrees of freedom, people assume that's what you must use for everything, and that's actually not the case. What you can do is you can do a much simpler model, ask some really important questions, and then move to the higher fidelity models at a later date. So that's some of the sort of the thing that we'll get out of this project. By building those simple models, you'll see how easily you can use those to answer some key questions about the system performance. I think the final part of it in terms of the project is also the link between subjective vehicle performance and objective vehicle performance. So vehicle dynamics is an incredibly subjective subject. If you put anybody in a car, they're going to have an opinion about how well its vehicle dynamics perform, and everybody's opinion is going to be different. Trying to then engineer a vehicle to meet people's subjective performance criteria is very, very difficult because engineers work to objective numbers. So what you need to do is you need to be able to convert that idea of subjective performance into some objective metrics that engineers can then work to. So as part of this project, you'll think about what the active system is going to try to improve on the vehicle, and then what metrics you can use to try to actually quantify that improvement. And that will help demonstrate that link between subjective vehicle performance and an objective metric.
So what would a student per week need to set aside with respect to time? How many hours per week should a candidate set aside in order to do this?
Yeah, so obviously it's quite an intensive project. It's not going to be a case of you can do this sort of 5 hours a week, just in and around other things. I think it's going to require a good few hours every day looking at this. It may not require 40 hours a week. You might not have to treat it like a full-time job, but I think you're going to be somewhere between 20 and 40, depending on how detailed you want to go with the project. It is one of those projects where you could keep it quite brief if you wanted to, but obviously, the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. So it's a little bit down to the students how much time they want to put into it, as is always the case with these sorts of projects. But I'd say minimum expectation is probably looking at about 20 hours, stretching up towards 40 hours if you really wanted to start getting into a lot of detail.